All right, hello, this is Diane Hinchcliffe from Web 2.0 Expo San Francisco 2009, and we have Joseph Smarr here with us today from Plaxo.
Hi guys.
So welcome, and I was just attending your session and listening to some of the things that you guys were talking about in terms of OpenID and OAuth, which are two really important components of the open web. And I was wondering if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about what those technologies are and why they're important.
Sure. Well, I guess if you haven't noticed, lots more people coming onto the web and using lots of websites, and particularly ones that want to know who you are and who you know and do these sort of social and personalized interactions. And of course, the only problem with that is every new website that makes you fill out yet another password and upload another photo and find all your friends, there's increasing fatigue from their users to really get that quality information. And users don't want to have to do that, and sites don't want to have to make users do that, but there's been no kind of good glue in the middle to help a user say, you know what, I'm already on Google, I'm already on Facebook, I'm already on what have you, let's just start from there and you can add your unique little value add on top of that. And so that's what this whole sort of set of these open stack technologies like OpenID and OAuth and portable contacts and Open Social are aiming to solve, where there's sort of good standards that let you go between websites and move that data around in a way that's, you know, cryptographically secure but very user friendly and all sort of under the hood. So you don't have to cut starting over from scratch everywhere that you go. Right. And it's really been flowering the last few years and gone from pretty, you know, early edge kind of grassroots kind of stuff to stuff that is actively being worked on and shipped by Google, Yahoo, MySpace, and Microsoft, and Facebook, and all the rest. So really interesting to see that wave just start to crest now.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, OpenID means that a user can say, I'm going to pick one identity that I want to be known as, and then be able to use any site that supports that. Right.
Right.
Is that the basic concept?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, for example, as like on Plaxo's site, we have to get users to sign up, and a lot of those users get invited via email, like on any given site. And so, if you've got someone coming from a gmail.com email address, well, it's a pretty good bet that they're a Google user. And so, when we tell them, hey, if you want to just use your Google account for Plaxo, that's cool. We don't need you to make another one on Plaxo. We see an increase in our business metrics across the board in terms of a higher sign-up completion rate, higher rate of import, better quality data, more likely to return, no lost passwords because they didn't have to put a separate password in Plaxo. So it's just sort of good sense to say, well, if you've already got that data, we just want to have access to it to add our value. We don't want to make you type it in again if we don't have to.
Right, so I think I understand OpenID, so let's talk a little bit about OAuth.
Sure.
That seems to be getting a lot of traction right now, and I see that Twitter recently supported it. What does that buy me as an open web user?
So when you start thinking about moving data between websites, a lot of that data is not public, right? I don't want to have to make all of my personal contact information and everybody that I know public just to be able to move it around between websites. What I want is to be able to say, I trust that website to have access to some of my data, or I trust that website. And the way people have done that so far is they'll ask you for your Google username and password, for example, and they'll go basically log in and impersonate as you and pull in all your information. But you have to trust that while they're there, they're not checking on your credit card or deleting your calendar or whatever else, because you've really given them the keys to the kingdom when you give away your password. So OAuth instead is a safe way of saying, I want to trust this website to have access to some of my information, but maybe not all of it, and in a way that I never have to give away my password and I can revoke it later. So it's sort of a standard authorization layer for making data portability work across websites.
Yeah, so in other words, if I'm using some kind of Twitter add-on, I don't have to hand that company my credentials. I can,
exactly.
There's a safe way for Twitter to say it's okay for that service to access my Twitter account, but I'm not going to have to worry about my credentials being compromised.
Exactly. So if you've ever tried to use one of those Twitter plugins or Twitter apps, they ask you for your Twitter account and password, and then you just have to hope and pray that they don't, go in and do bad things to your account, or even worse, that's the same password. Probably if you're like most users, you use that same password on a lot of different websites too, and so they could not only go and log into your Twitter account, but any of the other accounts that use that same password. So it's much safer to be able to just say, yes, let's link them up to have access to my followers, but not, be able to impersonate me completely.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about all this is that Twitter is one thing. I mean, if someone compromised my Twitter password, I'm really not worried that much. But it seems to me that OAuth can be used to create much more meaningfully deep applications that are integrated together, like banking applications, where that kind of identity is really important. I don't want that to get out. But yet, I think it would be great to have certain applications that integrated together do real useful things.
And it's crazy. I mean, banking is, there's such important data, and yet if you look at how Microsoft Money or Mint or any of these sites work, they ask you for your bank credentials, which often involves your social security number and your bank password, and they pull the information down. Why? Because the banks don't provide things like OAuth, and so there's no alternative. And I think that's a really important lesson is users really do want the tools they use to work together, and they really do want their data to move. And so they're going to make it happen one way or another. And if you don't allow them to do it safely, they're just going to do it unsafely. And so it's really incumbent upon businesses that store user data to allow them to access it in a secure way, because otherwise the users aren't going to say like, oh, I guess I just won't access my bank account. They'll just do it in an insecure way, and that's exactly what you see today.
Right, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, Joe, thank you for taking some time to talk to us about the open web.
Sure.
And we'll see you online.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Good.